in here, yeah, just talking, just having a conversation. How you doing, man?
I'm good. You want to chat about, because remember we were going to chat about is atheism or Christianity reliable? Is it reliable or reasonable? Reasonable.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Because you obviously chatted to Phil, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And obviously your questions were, how can we know stuff?
Yeah, I mean, no, yeah, so the conversation was more of a philosophy. Should we go a bit further down?
Yeah,
it's a bit more quiet, Yeah, so it's just more of a philosophical one, really.
Yeah, go for
it's
it.
just, how do you need a platform, for example, coming from where I'm coming, if you don't have a foundation, you can't build upon it, okay? If you don't have a beginning, a paradigm, you know what I'm saying? Then you can't start in the middle. And that's where I think atheists come from. So, for example, they would say we evolved. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying everything that we look at, going back to the is it cosmological argument?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anything we look at, unless you can correct me on this, do you want him to hold the camera or someone else?
No, that's fine.
Right. So anything that we know begins, okay, has a cause. And one of the things Phil never responded to was, do we know anything that we know that began to exist, but yet has no cause? And I don't think you really answered that. And then we spoke about moral argument, we spoke about various topics. But the whole point is that we're coming from a philosophical perspective. And the point being that if you don't have any grounds for something, how do you build upon it from an atheistic perspective?
Okay, so grounds for what then?
Grounds for, and we're speaking of existence.
Okay,
so you and I exist.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's grounds to, where did we come from? We came from our parents, would you say?
Yeah.
Right?
And rolling it all the way back.
Forth, right. So we're going on eternally, okay? Backwards, right?
Well, not eternally backwards, but...
Okay, so when did everything
start? Where do we come from?
When did everything start?
What do you mean everything? You mean the universe, or...?
When did creation start?
Well, I wouldn't say creation, obviously.
Okay, so when did... Okay, tell me your perspective.
So let me...
Yes,
yeah. So, he's Christian. Yeah. But as Phil explained it to you, let's call it the beginning, but the scientific version of beginning is different to your version.
Yeah.
But let's say the universe had some kind of a first moment of this version of the universe. That would be what we would call the beginning. Now, what happened prior to that? As Phil said, we don't know. There's different models that have different ideas about that. But all of the models, as far as I understand, whether they have a beginning or whether they're infinite in the past, however the universe happened, there was pre-existing stuff, whatever you want to call that. Now you would want to call that God.
What's your evidence of that?
So a couple of things. One is, well, I don't know which ones he explained to you. I think the two that I'm a little bit familiar with is conformal psychic cosmology and inflationary theory. Both of those have got a explanation for what happened prior to this universe expanding. Let's call it that. That's the best language I can give you.
Okay. Well, again, as I say, this is where we always get with, not yourselves.
No, that's fine. Go for it.
With atheists, what they will always say is that we don't know. We don't know. But the thing is, a detective could come on a crime scene that we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
And he could say we don't know and just walk off, right? But what does he do? He'll use evidences. That's what we base on. Evidences to ascertain or to affirm what happened in the past. And it's usually to a high percentage, usually to a 95% to 100% to 99% perhaps proof that this thing actually took place in the past. They'll go through using DNA, they use fingerprints. And I'm saying that God, I believe, obviously as a Christians, we believe that God gives us logic and reasoning. That's what the Christian belief. We're not saying we have to, we believe He gives us logic and reasoning. And how do we go back and say, well, hold on, this just popped out of nowhere, we don't know.
What's it? What popped out of nowhere?
Well, everything that we have. The world, the universe.
Okay, well, the universe is the let's call it the starting point for the discussion, isn't it?
So how did we get here? I've never heard an atheist be able to tell me, they'll always fall back on, it's because we don't know. That's it, sorry, that's what they say. We don't know. I'm saying, how, why not use your reasoning? Why not say...
I think you are, if I may say so, slightly mischaracterizing what atheists, well, not all atheists, everybody's got their own opinion. But the models that are put forward they're not sitting in a lab and just going, let me just think of some wild, crazy thing so I can avoid God. That's not what cosmologists are doing. And it sounds like, and you can tell me, Rob, no, that's not my opinion. It sounds like theists think that cosmologists are making stuff up with no evidence, no observations, no science, calculations.
But yeah, but God, I don't believe that at all.
What do you believe? When I present to you the inflationary model, what do you think? Do you think there's some information underneath that gives us a reson to believe that?
No, what I'll say is going back to what you said earlier on. You said we just don't know, okay? But I'm saying, Shubin, if, for example, let me just try and put it in a kind of a, let me try and paint the picture. If, I don't know, a bomb went off right now, yeah? It blew up.
Yeah.
We would not say, well, hold on, do you know what? We just don't know, okay? There are ways of being able to determine what happened. Why did the bomb blow up? We don't just say, in normal everyday life, we don't say, oh, the bomb blew up, and we just don't know. There's ways of investigating and being able to find out perhaps even who planted the bomb there. Talk about the bomb, why, what kind of explosives we use, so on and so forth. We're able to do that. And so why can't we use the same logic, same reasoning? Why do we have to hide behind?
Good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
So let me give you the answer.
Sure.
And hopefully you'll go think about this and not ask this question again.
Okay, go on.
What you've done is, it's called a fallacy of composition. So what that basically means is that you're going, hey, because everything that we know of in the universe has got a cause, therefore the universe must have a cause. So you're attributing everything within the universe, and you're saying, well, the universe must have a tube. And that's what's called a fallacy of composition. What are we made up of? What are we made up of?
Matter and so on and so forth, yeah.
Okay, so why aren't we called matter?
Well, no, because there's different forms of matter, and we're just human beings.
So we don't call ourselves matter, we call ourselves humans, because we're made up of matter. So we don't go, hey, because all we're made up of is matter, we are just matter. So what we got to be careful of doing.
Now you're strawmanning.
No.
That's not my argument.
I know. It's an analogy to show you why saying, hey, everything in the universe has a cause, therefore the universe must have a cause, that's an equivocation. In other words, you're saying, because everything we can observe has a cause, the universe, which we can't observe what happened before that, must have a cause. We don't know.
Can I correct you on what I said? Because I think you're kind of slightly misrepresenting me. What I'm simply saying is this, right? Okay? One of the first things I asked you is, is there anything that you know that's begun to exist that doesn't have a cause? Okay? So everything you say you know, okay? Remember,
within this universe, yes.
Right, yeah. Everything within this universe, you said you know, okay, has a cause.
Yes.
Can we agree on that, right?
Yes.
Okay?
As far as I'm aware,
So therefore, it would only make sense if you then would investigate, okay, further. If everything has everything that begins has a cause, why not look into where this universe came from? Because we know trees have a cause.
That's what cosmology is doing.
Right, but you say you don't have an answer, right?
We don't know for sure.
Right, and that's the issue I have with atheism.
Okay, but
I don't think you use reasoning. You use reason for anything else, like the bomb exploded. You use reason. Okay, well, let's get our forensics guys down. Let's do this. Let's do all this investigation. But as far as you're concerned, because you want to shut God out of the picture, you just say, "Well, we don't know. We don't know."
No, but you see, I think you're strawmanning my position. If you can give me a hypothesis that we can somehow investigate and ideally falsify, because that's what science does, in some way that God did it, now you're on the same playing field. At the moment, you're playing darts and I'm playing football. We're playing on two different fields.
No, I mean, very simply,
because every single cosmological model has got information that gives people the idea that could be an option. What information can we use? What observations, mathematics, or anything else can we use to see whether God created the universe?
It's very simple. Philosophically, it's very simple.
Okay, so that's all you have is some kind of philosophical. You've got no scientific evidence.
All I have.
That's all you've got.
That's important. Philosophy is important. Okay, what was one of the things that Phil mentioned? What did he say about science?
What did you say? You tell me. He said many things.
This is what he said. He said that the information we had a few years ago about science has changed, right?
Improved, I would say, but yes, sure.
No, he said changed. I gave him some I think it was, he mentioned William Lane Craig. I mentioned some Christian apologists, no, actually, I don't know if I mentioned, but I mentioned some people who have presented certain evidences in regards to the creation and the Big Bang and the first singularity and so on and so forth. He said now scientists, the information, and he went back to the 80s. He said no, that was information given in the 80s.
Yeah.
But in 2017, it's changed.
Yes.
What does that mean? That means science can change. But the thing about philosophy, you have to use logic. Now, one thing about logic is that logic is immaterial, it's unchangeable, and it's universal. Okay? So when you use logic, it's not going to change. It's not going to be different in the 50s, and then in 2017, philosophy, it's not going to change in 2017. It's going to be consistent. This is the reason why it's a firm foundation which Christians build upon. That's why when I say I debate, I don't just use science, because tomorrow science is going to change. Tomorrow you're going to say, well, no, actually, the Big Bang, it's not the Big Bang that created you, or you're going to say something different. But when you use a firm foundation called philosophy, it's not going to change. That's why my argument was presented that way.
Okay, so
let me just mention one point as well, because obviously you got Richard Dawkins. Recently, he said that now he does believe in an intelligent design. Did he say that years ago? Intelligent design.
when did he ever say that?
Okay, I'll show you what he said.
No, just give me. Just
He
give me
said it, yeah. I wanted
What
to
do you
give you
mean
information.
by intelligent design? What does he mean?
Okay, listen, you can go investigate that. What I'm simply doing is just giving you information that years ago, Richard Dawkins said there was no such thing as an intelligent design. Check him out yourself. Don't take my
I
word
think
for
you've
it.
misrepresented him.
All right, well, I'm going to
What
say...
he actually said, if you're talking about that movie that he was in where he was interviewed, and Ben Stein said to him, is it possible that we could have come here by a means, some
Should we look
means?
at ourselves? Should we look at ourselves?
Go for it.
Yeah? Okay, I'm just going to just basically type out...
You go for it.
Richard Dawkins. Okay. I mean, again, I mean, my whole point on this really, as you already know, is that science can change. I mean, you could say one thing, not science can change, but you would say this is scientific absolute proof, and then next week you'd be saying something different. And the whole point is that's what cosmologists and scientists admit. They say, well, we just...
Godwin, you're like a bull in a china shop. In other words, you don't want to look at nuance. So, for example, the fact that we can look back 13.72 billion years, for example, to that part of our looking back to the last scattering surface, that's not going to change. So there's some things, foundational things, that are not going to change. The hypothesis built on that might change.
I'm just going to read to the very first link.
Sure.
It says I'm scroll down to what
Yeah,
he
go
said.
for it. You find whatever you want to say there.
It says here. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to read where it is underlined because I don't want to take too much time. I suppose it's possible that you might find evidence for that if you look at the details of biochemistry, molecular biology. You might find a signature of some sort of designer. This is what we
Keep reading. Right. I know exactly what he said there.
Wait a second, Richard Dawkins.
Keep reading.
No,
read that. Read the whole thing that he said.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, because there's some bits and brackets and it's not saying voiceover, so I'm just trying to ascertain which part he's actually saying and what the other person's saying. Not part of the, because he says voiceover, not part of the interview. So that's what I'm saying, I'm trying to ascertain which word. So wait a second, Richard Dawkins, okay. And that designer would well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
Yep.
So
keep going. Is that all?
Okay.
Finish the sentence.
But the higher intelligence would itself have to come about by some explicable or ultimately explicable process. He couldn't have just bumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point. So his point is that
what do you think his point is?
No, I'm just reading this. This is actually first time.
Yep. I know what he said there. Right. That's the Ben Stern movie.
He said he couldn't have just jumped into existence spontaneously. That's the point. That's the point Stephen Hawking's making. So Professor Dawkins, that's voiceover. But the point is this: is that you never find anywhere in the past where
Richard Dawkins.
I'm getting
you are confused,
Richard Dawkins,
but you're also confused about what your inference
is. So the point is that Richard Dawkins has even changed his stance on. He never ever said there was intelligent design. Can you show me anywhere in any of his books where he said there used to be intelligent design?
So let me correct you because you are wildly mistaken.
No, this is a question I'm asking very specifically. Yeah? Is there anywhere where he said there is an intelligent designer?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay. Right here, is he saying that there is an intelligent designer?
Not in the way you are understanding.
No. I mean, in any way, in any sense of the word, in any way whatsoever, has he?
What did he say there, Darwin? What did he say there, Godwin? He said there could have been an intelligence that allowed us to come, and that intelligence itself would have had to have come about by a mechanism like evolution.
Okay, that's not what I got from it. But listen,
read the book.
The point is this: is that
it's a straw man.
Science, yeah, that's what it is. The point is this:
you got it wrong.
Science, like Phil said last time we spoke, science next week you say, well, you know what, or next year, or in 50 years' time, you say, no, that's not how it actually happened. Just like Phil said in the last discussion.
Do you think that all of science is like that? Do you think that tomorrow...
Of course not.
Okay,
but then,
so when you say the word science, you are now encompassing everything. Do you think that we are going to suddenly work out that the Earth goes around the sun? Do you think that will ever happen?
The point I'm making...
No, I want you to answer the question.
I'm answering that question by saying this.
Right.
The point I'm making is that when you asked me earlier on, where's the science proof? Where's the science proof? Like that's like you got the tree of knowledge, you got a branch of science, you got a branch of philosophy, you got historical branches. You have various branches that you can pull knowledge from. But you're adamant about, well, where's the science proof? And I'm saying, not all science, but some sciences will change. However, when you go to philosophy, as I said, unless you can refute this, philosophy is logic. Philosophy is immaterial. It's immaterial. It's it's unchanging, and it's universal. So it doesn't change. You could go 200 years ago, and I'd say you use the same argument as I'm using now. That's the reason why I use philosophy, because it seems like you were. Correct me if I'm wrong, you were discarding philosophy as if that's not a
not at all. I think philosophy is brilliant, but it has to be informed, like Phil said to you, on good science.
Well, that's my argument. My argument is I'm using philosophy. If you have a problem with that, then maybe speak to someone else about it. But I'm using philosophy, okay? And that's how we come to God, because we use philosophy. If everything that brings exists as a cause, okay, what caused this? Whatever it has to be
Why do you think
powerful. Has to be has to be a person, because it has to have free will too.
You mean an agent, not a person?
What a person? What's a person?
An individual agent, because we think of persons as beings with 2 legs and 2 arms.
No, that's what you think. What is a person? I don't think the officer is a Christian.
What do you think a person is?
Well, I believe God's also a person.
Person. So
Yes.
does God have a form?
What? No, but that's not what a person is. Do you not understand what a person is?
Okay, so what do you mean? What do you mean by a person?
Do you understand what a person is?
You tell me what you mean.
Okay, a person.
I'll tell you what my understanding. A person is a human being. It's a person.
No.
Okay, so what do you understand?
Human being is a type, but it's not only a person.
What other type of person is
God?
there?
God's a person. That's what I'm saying.
So does God have a form? Does a person have a form?
A person doesn't have to have a form. That's my point. You're getting it wrong. A person does not have to have a form. So, a person has free will. A person is self-reflective. A person has intentionality. Mm-hmm. A person is able to, is able to love. A person is able to, write poetry. These are things that inanimate objects can't do, such as trees and a rock and animals. They cannot have these self-reflective and so on and so forth.
Okay, so you reject the dictionary definition of person.
Well, no, you just Googled something up. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
okay.
but I'm giving you. So we're talking different languages.
No. What I'm saying to you is my definition. Unless you can disagree with my definition.
Yes,
okay?
I'm giving you the definition.
Okay, no, you Googled something. I'm saying a definition of a person. Okay, right, is someone who is has free will. Okay. Who's
that's attributes. Those are attributes.
No. Okay, is an animal a person?
No.
Right. So according to
a human being regarded as an individual. A person is a human being regarded as an individual.
As Christians, we believe that God is a person. So how can he just be a human being?
Okay, you can use that. I mean, it's semantics, because you can use that language if you want, but then you're speaking German and I'm speaking English.
Well, okay.
I would say God could be an agent.
Let me give you my definition. Okay. All right. Definition of a person is one with free will. Okay. Animals, we believe do not have free will. They're intuitive. They move.
Can an animal decide when it's hungry and go and eat? Or is it all intuition?
It moves by instinct. Yeah. For example, this is what I use. I would say it's like a sat navigator.
So you don't think animals can make decisions?
No. You can program it. You can program it with all information, but it moves by instinct. For example, let me give you an example I always use. Usually, on a general sense of things, a wild animal generally eats the same thing. They generally eat, so like if you have a lion, it's not a vegetarian one day, and then today I decided to be a meat eater.
Can a lion decide when it wants to sleep and when it wants to walk around?
Wait, did you hear my point? I'm saying that, does a lion ever say, well, do you know what, today I'm going to be a meat eater, well, next week I'm going to be a vegetarian? Have you heard that they have the capacity to do that? Have that free will that we do to say, I'm a vegan today, next week I'm going to be a meat eater. Does they have the capacity to do that?
No.
Right. And so what I'm saying to you is that that's something
I'm asking you a question. You ask me one.
Yeah, sure.
Can a lion decide when to go to sleep, when to get up and walk around?
It's natural instinct. Everything's instinct. It's just
So
like
I
we're
encourage you to look into this more.
Well, no, I encourage you to because
I have looked into it. I've been to seminars on animals.
Well,
they can make
I
decisions.
disagree on that.
I agree that they don't have rationality, so they can't think in a rational way, but they can make decisions.
Right, but that's
that's the scientific
you
evidence.
You haven't given me evidence for that. You haven't given me evidence.
Okay, do you want evidence for that? Yes,
Okay, maybe
I
next
am
time we
asserting
talk,
that.
we'll go into that. But as far as I'm concerned,
You
only
just
human
dismiss things, Godwin, because it doesn't meet your precondition.
No,
You haven't answered my question. Can a lion make a decision to lie down and
I've
sleep?
just answered it.
If
I
it's
said
hot? No.
I've said everything is instinctive. When it's hungry, it's instinctive. When it wants to go and sleep, everything's instinctive. It's always instinctive. Unless you can bring evidence to prove otherwise, then I'll listen to evidence. I will do. Because it doesn't make a difference to my Christianity anyway. But I'm just saying, what it boils down to is that the only agents, okay, God.
Agent, there we go. I'm okay with agent.
But God is a person. That's my point. God's a person. Human beings a person. Inanimate objects are not person.
You can make up your own definition. That's fine. It's different to everybody else, but that's fine.
Are we kind of talking in circles?
Yeah, because where
are we going with this? What's your point with this?
Your claim was about the Kalam argument.
You called me to talk
Correct.
to me, right?
Because
this is twice now. So what point? What's your
because
agenda?
you had a
What do you want to
conversation with Phil, and you questioned the foundations of an atheistic worldview. So that's what I want to discuss. And then you went off on a tangent talking about the Kalam and where did we come from. But your specific question to Phil was, how can he know anything for certain? Do you remember that?
Yeah, how can you know? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so you're going to tell me how you can know something for certain.
Okay, so let me start and help you out. I've been through this before.
Okay.
Certainty is a red herring. You don't have certainty, neither do I. Nowhere in epistemology, as far as I'm aware, do the people talk about certainty. They talk about knowledge and belief. So when you use the word certainty, what you really mean when we're talking philosophy, which is your area that you enjoy, go and look this up. You're talking about how certain your belief is. If you've got knowledge, knowledge is knowledge. You don't have certain knowledge. It's just the language we use. Does that make sense? So there's.
I'll just let you finish.
Go
say
for
what you're saying. Okay,
so there's a difference between belief and knowledge. Those are the only two things you and I need to talk about.
I think if I recollect correctly, what I actually said to Phil, which is actually deeper than what you've just put it, is that he couldn't even know anything. You couldn't even know you're standing here. Forget about certainty. You couldn't even know you're standing here.
Why can't I know that?
Because you've got to, again, use the philosophy, okay? Right? As a Christian, okay, there are certain scenarios I can put myself in to be able to know something. And two of the things I said was this. One, either I'm omniscient and I know all things, so therefore I can know this, that, and the other, or I know somebody, or I'm in contact with somebody who's omniscient, who knows all things. And obviously for us, we'd say that was God.
Tell me something you know.
Well, hold on. One second. However, from an atheistic perspective, just from a natural perspective, okay, you could be a brain in a vat. And I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yes.
You rely on your 5 sensory organs, okay?
Among other things, yes.
But no, okay. How do you know you're standing there?
Because of those, because wait.
Sorry.
Well, if you want me to, I believe in the reliability of my memory, my ability to comprehend what you're saying. Because if what you say is true, you're also in the matrix. Well, think about that. You've said something to me. I've responded. Yes.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Can I just go?
That means my memory needs to be reliable. Because if you're saying I'm a brain in a vat, then you are putting yourself in the vat as well. Because in order for me to understand what you're saying, I need to believe that my rationality, my senses are reliable, and that I'm hearing and remembering what you're saying, and then I'm responding to you. So if your claim is that I'm in a vat, you're in there with me.
Yeah, Phil, I think you're missing my point.
Rob.
Rob, sorry about that. Rob, I think you're missing my point. My point is simply philosophical. I'm saying we have a scenario in which we can say, well, hold on, we know something.
What do you know? Tell me.
Hold on, that's what I'm saying. I'll just respond to that point before I go to it. We have a scenario where we can know something. Okay, either I know all things, therefore I can say this is true. I can say, well, I'm not actually living in a brain in a vat. Actually, it's not just my 5 sensory organs that's telling me, because I know all things. I know this for fact. Because either I know things, or I have, or I'm able to receive a revelation from someone who's all-knowing, who's all-powerful, who's able to reveal that to me, okay? Now, that means that he's able to reveal that information from me. It's just simply a scenario I'm painting. From an atheistic perspective, you don't have such a scenario. You're simply relying on your 5 sensory organs, or that's it. And let me tell you something about what. Let me ask you a question. When
First, answer my one.
No, it's on that point. It's on the point
No,
I'm
but
making.
you said you were going to answer my question, so go ahead.
I would.
What do you know?
What do I know?
Yes, you said that you've got knowledge. What knowledge have you got?
I know that we have different seasons.
Do you believe it or do you know it?
No, I know it because I believe that God has revealed that to me through the Bible.
What God has revealed that we've got seasons?
Yes, Genesis 8.
Okay,
Genesis 8:22.
so you're not experiencing seasons in the world.
Well, no, I know for sure because, for example, I could, there's people who are, who don't, whose minds are not valid. So they could think one thing, but they could be incorrect, right? We've met those type of people, right?
All of us.
Right.
All
So
of us.
The point being is that I might not be sure about something. However, okay, because my faith is that I believe there is a God, okay, who's revealed this information to me, who's omniscient, who knows all things, okay. I've now put myself in a scenario when I could know all things, whereas there is no such scenario with an atheist.
You've shot yourself in the foot. You didn't realize it. You said to me,
Show me how.
Sure. If you rewind the video, see it. You said, I believe God has given me this information.
Right.
You don't know it, so you believe it.
Well, no. Again, I said that the scenario is, okay, because again, of course, it is belief, it is faith. However, what I'm simply saying...
There you go.
No, but you don't hear what I'm saying. Listen to the argument carefully.
I'm listening. I know this argument. Go ahead.
What I'm simply saying is that for me to say that I know that I'm standing here, right? Very carefully. For me to say I know that I'm here, there has to be certain foundations or evidences for me to present to say that I know, make that decision, I know that I'm standing here.
Present it.
Right, okay? Right, and so what I'm saying is that either I have to know all things, okay, or I have to know a being, okay, who knows all things and has revealed that to me, okay? And so from a Christian perspective, yes, I believe, okay, it's a scenario. I'm not saying, listen, I'm not trying to give you an absolute proof that God exists. I'm simply saying that all the evidences point at God.
Yeah, but that's a completely different question. You were talking about knowledge.
Yeah, I don't think you're understanding me.
I think you're confused. No, but I think you're confused, Godwin. Because
Which part am I confused?
Okay. How do you know you're not a brain in a vat?
How do I know?
You've asked me. I don't know that I'm not a brain. How do you know? Because you're going to claim that you're not a brain in a vat, correct? How do you know?
The reason, okay, as I said, I'm not giving you absolute proof. Let me just make it clear again. I'm not giving you absolute proof. I'm just simply saying the only scenario to know that I'm not a brain in a vat is if I know an omniscient being who's able to give me that information. Otherwise, I'll be in your position and I wouldn't know.
Right. Stop there.
Right.
Has that been given you that information that you're not a brain in a vat?
The being is giving me certain information throughout the Bible, from Genesis to...
That's a book. The book could be wrong. That could be a dream. Has he given you information you're not a brain in a vat? That's the point.
This is what I'm saying. He's not in a brain in a vat, no, because it doesn't say that in the Bible. But all the information that's in the Bible, I can know for certain because I believe that obviously there's a God who's giving me a scenario. Now, can I
have historical evidence for that too?
Right, but can I throw it back to you?
That's not the argument.
Yeah, but can I throw it back to you as well?
Sure. You're highly confused on this, but carry on.
How do you know? Well, that's your opinion. So
yeah, because you're jumping between belief and knowledge, and you don't even know you're doing it.
Of course I believed.
You say you believe that a God gave it to you, but then you say you know for certain.
Let me just say for the last time. Perhaps you don't understand my argument.
Okay, before we carry on, can you tell me what?
Let me just clarify what we're talking about first, because you don't understand my argument. My argument is this, okay? I'm not saying that I'm going to give you 100% proof for anything, okay? But I am going to give you evidences that point at that, okay? So I'm not going to say, well, this is absolute proof for this, that, and the other. However, I would say, for example, if just like I used before, if there was a crime scene, the detective will come and he will provide evidences such as DNA.
Yes, don't repeat that.
No, because
I've heard that before.
Right, well, that's the point I'm making. I'm saying I'm not giving absolute proof. I'm giving you evidences. You've realized the difference between evidences and proofs, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm saying to you, hold on. What I'm saying to you is my faith or my belief shows me that there is a God that's omniscient, okay, and He's revealed it. Now, of course, I have to believe in that God, obviously, for me to even say that.
All of that part is fine. I'm fine with that.
However, I'm now in a position to say, well, hold on. If this is the case, remember I'm using the word if this God does exist, if He is omniscient, if He is omnipotent, which is all powerful, is it possible for Him to reveal that information? Can I pose that to you?
Yes.
Exactly. Yes, he is.
No,
It's
you asked. Sorry, you're asking me. You
Is
asked
it,
me.
okay, yeah. Is
okay,
it possible?
ask me the question that you want me
is
to
it
answer.
possible for an omniscient God, omnipotent God, to be able to give me information, okay, in regards to myself? Is it possible?
Okay, now listen to my answer.
Yes.
Listen, let me finish.
Yeah.
Yes, an omniscient God could zap information into your brain. Now, the question for you, listen carefully.
So I didn't understand the answer. Just zap it into your brain. What do you mean?
You're saying that God, is it possible for an omniscient God to give you information that you could know for certain?
Okay, so
Wait though.
okay, let me just I want to clarify my point a bit. So obviously we use the Bible, right? Is it possible for God to reveal His word through the Bible, or omniscient being?
That you could know it.
No, is he able to give it through the Bible so that so we can know? An omniscient, omnipotent God, is he able to give us His word? Is that possible?
Is he able to give you his word through the Bible?
Yeah. Knowledge that we don't have. Is it possible for him to give it to us? Is that possible?
In theory, it's possible. Yes.
That's all it is. I'm not giving you 100% proof. I'm just simply saying that the evidences show us. But with an atheist, you don't have that scenario.
You jump around. You are very confused with different things. First, you said to me, God can give you the knowledge. Can He give you that knowledge into your brain? Is that possible? Can God, as you're standing here, can God send you information into your brain?
If He's omniscient and omnipotent, of course He can.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Then you went to the Bible.
Yeah, of course.
Remember, the Bible is a translation of books that people wrote.
Now you're going somewhere else. Now you're going somewhere else. Yeah. You're wrong about that. Yeah, you're wrong about that.
We have Greek manuscripts, Aramaic.
Who wrote those? Did God write those?
Holy men wrote it.
Who wrote them?
By God.
Who wrote them?
Inspired by
Holy
God.
men
Could they be wrong?
No, they're not.
No.
Okay, so you guys, you talk about philosophy, but I suggest a little bit more study.
No, bro,
Your claim.
The evidence is points at it. I mean, if you look at all the historical evidence in the Bible, I mean, everything follows through.
It was on BBC, yes.
Yeah, it was on yeah.
You asked me the original question and you interrupted before I finished, which is seemingly the way you do things. You asked me, can God...
What is this? You called me for this. It seems like you've got some weird agenda. What is this?
I want to have that conversation with you, but in order for me to do that,
throwing these little kind of
each one of us must have a conversation. Because if you butt in and think that you've made a point, then you haven't.
So you make a little slide comments, which I don't appreciate.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm speaking to you civilly. I mean, you keep saying, oh, you're confused, and this is just, if you feel I'm confused, okay, then explain to me. But you seem like you're coming.
So can I explain it to you where you zip the mouth and listen? Because if you butt in, your original question was, can God give me information that I can know it for certain?
Can God? Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I said to you, yes, it's possible, and then I wanted to explain to you and ask you a question, and you butted in. How would you know that? How can you demonstrate to me that you know it? So I'm saying God could zap something or give it to you in some way. How do you know that it's the God that it said?
Okay.
You're a fallible being, correct?
Phil,
could you be wrong?
Okay, Phil, I think I responded to you before. I said to you that I'm not going to give you absolute proof, and you agreed with me that proof is different from evidence, okay? I said I'm not going to give you absolute proof, but I'm going to follow the evidence to where it leads, okay? And the evidence leads me to omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, spaceless, timeless, unchanging, creator of the universe.
I understand that.
Wait, hold on 1 second. So I'm not saying 100% proof because I don't welcome proof. I'm saying the evidence points me towards that.
I understand that's your belief.
And so, so what I'm saying to you is that when you say that, I'm saying to you, listen, for my evidence, because you're asking me, it's almost like you're asking me absolute, can you show me for sure this, that, the other? I said, no. However, I can show you the evidence points at that God.
So you believe in God, you don't know God.
I'm saying the evidence. You're not going to change my words. You're not going to change my words. The evidence points at there being a God, a creator.
Okay.
Whether that's why the Bible. Let me say this as well, because the Bible is very important. That's why the Bible says in the book of you can check it out for Psalms 14 verse 1, and Psalms 51. Because I have to state back where I believe. Yeah. It says that the fool has said in his heart there is no God. You have to be a fool to think that everything just popped out of nowhere. To just think that, oh well, and the problem with atheists is they will always, when you backed them to the corner and asked them more about their belief, they'll say, oh, we just don't know. Science was so, and then after that they'll say, well, science changed. Oh no, the science 50 years ago has changed to the science we have now. And that's why God Himself, the Bible says that the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. No, how on earth is gravity holding us down right now? How do we know?
Are you giving me a lecture or are we having a conversation?
No, I have to. I'm stating my belief now. I'm stating my faith.
I understand your belief. I understood it the first time I came to Speaker's Corner. You know mine. I'm not going to repeat my belief. I understand the belief. I understand the belief.
But I agree with that statement. That's why even a Muslim, the reason why we have these discussions with these Muslims and we have these debates is because at least they have a foundation to build upon. Yes.
No.
Anyone who believes,
believe in God.
anyone who believes that at least they believe in God. So that's why we just have to debate.
Yeah.
What is your foundation?
Anyway,
Can you,
that's my point, yeah.
because you seem to jump between them, can you tell me what the difference is between knowledge and belief? What do you understand by the word belief?
Well,
I have to ask this question because
knowledge is justified true belief.
No. Okay. What is belief? What does the word belief mean to you? Give me a rough. You don't have to be accurate.
Okay. Let me just Google it. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to think knowledge is justified true belief. That's not my position anymore. That's been refuted now.
The question the guy is asking it needs answers many times, but
Yeah. No,
it's just a matter of
because he jumps between belief and knowledge.
because when
but
you talk about God,
then
you have to
automatically says,
describe the
I'm
God.
not. I'm
You
not.
have to know who the God is. You have to
What do you
tell
say
us.
you don't
You have to prove it.
Yeah.
You cannot say
Give me-
evidence.
give me a what-
Evidence without
Look
proof.
up belief so that you can tell me whether you agree with it. I don't mind you looking.
So
it
it
up.
says here, an acceptance that
What?
something exists or is true,
Alexander, yeah,
especially
that's what
one
it said.
without
That's what it
proof, trust, faith, confidence. Exactly, that's what I just said.
Yeah, by the science.
That's my point.
Okay, so you agree that there's a difference between belief and knowledge. Which one is stronger?
Wait, you asked me, do you agree with this?
No, not exactly. My one's close enough. That's close enough. That's good enough. That's good enough.
Do you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm not really. I don't know where we. Okay, where are we going with this? What's your?
Your claim to me is that I've got no foundation. My response to you is you don't have a foundation
Where's
either.
your? Okay, so alright, so it's kind of what you call the two koku, yeah. So get the pot, get on that. Well, I ain't got no. Neither do you. I won. So
I don't-
even if you, because I do this with Muslims all the time, they say, oh well, you're just as bad as I am. Okay, well, you know, your prophets did what our prophets did, and I'm saying, well, it doesn't make you right. It means all it means is that we're both wrong. Maybe the Hindus right, or maybe the Sikhs right. It doesn't make you put in a better position. So it's a fallacy. Do you know it's a fallacy you're
Godwin,
using?
you came to me and said I don't have a foundation.
I didn't come to you. You came to me. Let's correct that. You came to me.
Oh, it's frustrating. I didn't come to you and say that you don't have a foundation. I didn't come and do that to you. You said to me, atheists have got no foundation to know anything.
You don't have any foundation. You haven't proved it yet.
And I acknowledge that we don't have a foundation, whatever your foundation is.
You can never
Right,
say
so then you've just affirmed my point.
And I'm saying to you, you don't have it either. Prove that you've got it, and you haven't done it.
Okay. We've clarified and you've affirmed that atheists have no foundation, right? So we've cleared it up, yeah? So that's out of the picture now, yeah?
Go for it.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that's clear because it seemed like you was disputing what I just said. But now you've affirmed that atheists don't have a foundation.
Well, okay,
However,
before you continue, what do you mean by foundation? What do you mean by
you
it?
just said it yourself. Do you know what you were saying?
You tell me what you mean by foundation.
Okay, when you said that I agree that atheists don't have a foundation, what did you mean? Because it seems like we're just going
A
into semantics.
transcendent foundation.
What did you mean?
I don't have a
That
transcendent foundation.
Okay, so you don't have an objective foundation, is that what you mean?
What do you objective? What do we mean by objective?
I know, I'm getting frustrated. You know what, Phil? Let's continue this another time, yeah? Because I'm, it's like we're talking past each other. We're getting semantics. We're getting into definitions. I don't feel like this is. To be honest with you, I don't think you're being sincere. Okay? So I will talk to you again. But I think look into some of the things I've said.
I know this argument well.
Yeah, look into some of these things he said. You've admitted, and whether you might change your mind later on, and if you do, come back with evidence. You've admitted that atheists don't have a foundation. Now,
For what,
whatever you think that is, whether you think it's transcendent, or however you
But
see
what though? For what, Godwin? For what?
But the thing is,
What do I not have a foundation for? Tell me. You keep saying the word. What do I not?
knowing anything. That's what we're talking about for the last half hour. For knowing anything. You cannot know anything. You cannot know anything. That's what the Bible says. You're a fool. Not me. No, God says you're a fool. Anyone who thinks gravity holds us down, who thinks the oxygen just appeared out of nowhere, we're breathing out carbon dioxide, everything's just spontaneous and just random. Anyone who thinks that there's not a design or someone controlling all this has to be illogical because you're not going to go to work and then all the work you're supposed to do is just going to do itself. But there has to be a controlling mechanism. You don't have that in atheism. All right, but we'll talk again another time. Is that okay?
I'm not sure we will.
All right. Well,
I really don't think
okay,
so.
well, thanks for the conversation.